After publishing a letter in support of Amber Heard, the group's Instagram was suspended. Many people have been disparaging Amber Heard online as a result of the defamation case that exposed private details of alleged domestic violence between Johnny Depp and Heard. In a recent open letter, more than 200 professionals and organizations demanded a stop to the harassment the actress and others who disclose sexual and domestic abuse endure. But Depp supporters were incensed by the letter, and some of them deluged the organizer's Instagram account with harsh remarks. When the letter appeared on Wednesday, it was only a few hours after the account became live. It was suspended for almost a day, highlighting the resistance survivors encounter when confronting online harassment. According to Michelle Dauber, a professor at Stanford Law School and a steadfast supporter of sex assault victims, who spoke to the Washington Post. Dauber, who also signed the letter, stated, "This is a letter concerning the online hostility and public shaming that Amber Heard endured as a result of coming out with allegations of abuse. It also concerns the internet harassment of anyone who supported her. The outcome of the study is unrelated." According to screenshots the Post obtained, the @Letter4Amber Instagram account received a flood of irate comments, some of which were laced with profanity and denounced Heard as a liar and an abuser. According to Dauber, the account decided to disable and remove comments that were so vile and so harassing that it was upsetting other survivors. The account was deleted shortly after when users started to report it. Instagram's parent company, Meta, said in a statement that the account's suspension on Wednesday night was an error and that none of its contents had broken any rules set forth by the business. Soon after the Post inquired about the account's situation on Thursday evening, the account was restored. The Post contacted Heard and her attorneys for comment, but they did not answer. Whitney Henriquez, her sister, applauded Wednesday's letter and referred to it as a much-needed breath of fresh air. By Thursday night, more than 10,000 people had signed a counter-letter defending Depp, denouncing the backing Heard received as a kick in the teeth for male victims of domestic abuse. A request for comment on the letters was not immediately met by a Depp spokesman. Dauber is one of the organizations, activists, scholars, and advocacy groups who signed the letter protecting Heard. In addition to Gloria Steinem, actress Constance Wu, the National Organization for Women, the Women's March Foundation, and Equality Now all signed it. The statement, which was released about 5 months after the jury's decision, claims that Ms. Heard has been the target of unprecedented levels of hatred and scale in both online abuse of both her and those who have expressed support for her. Disinformation, misogyny, biphobia, and a monetized social media environment are also held responsible for escalating the intimidation and sustaining a loop in which a woman's charges of domestic violence and sexual assault were mocked for entertainment. Having been married for less than 2 years, Heard and Depp divorced in 2017. Heard accused herself of being a public figure symbolizing domestic abuse in an opinion piece she wrote for the Washington Post a year later, but she did not specifically name Depp. The Pirates of the Caribbean actress filed a $50 million slander lawsuit against Heard and accused her of abusing him. She subsequently filed a $100 million counterclaim against Depp after his attorney dismissed her claims as untrue. The two sparred for 6 weeks in a Fairfax County, Virginia courthouse, but the proceedings were broadcast live on television, in live streams, and in viral recordings. On social media, public opinion leaned significantly toward Depp, and Heard and her legal team became the subject of innumerable memes. The Post previously reported, this was true even as both sides leveled accusations of violence, drug abuse, and cruelty against one another. In the end, the jury rendered a decision in Depp's favor and gave him a $15 million damage compensation. Heard was given $2 million by the jury after they also determined that she had been libelous. Numerous individuals and groups who publicly defended Heard, including the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, came under fire online. According to Jessica Taylor, a psychologist and the creator of Victim Focus, an organization that fights prejudice against abuse victims, some victims of abuse have also started to reevaluate taking legal action against their abusers. She told the Post that several women told me that they were retracting from cases, that they were choosing to drop action, or that they were choosing to not report their abusers at all. They all claimed that it had exposed them to a frightening aspect of the legal system, and given them the impression that they would never be the perfect victim. The harassment Heard experienced, according to Professor Dauber, the chilling effects on others hoping to report domestic or sexual abuse, violent crimes that increased during the pandemic but are also notoriously underreported, was what spurred her to sign the letter. The letter, according to Dauber, was a coordinated effort to show solidarity against victim blaming in public, and to draw attention to how social media sites not only permitted but encouraged the unregulated spread of Heard's ridicule. The main participants in harassment and defamation, according to Dauber, are not online trolls but rather big tech and social media sites that gained a lot of money. When content producers are vying for clicks and viewers by posting content, that ridicules Heard in order to profit, which, of course, benefits these platforms. It creates a very dangerous situation. However, some have criticized the timing of the letter, claiming that it came too little and too late in support of Heard, as Fran Hopfner of Gawker put it on Wednesday. In Hopfner's opinion, it is, at best, a belated display of unity to support the egos of its creators, and at worst, a flagrant and shameful admission of guilt over additional silence. What specifically prevented something like this from existing sooner? Dauber cited the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the necessity of defending reproductive freedom during the midterm elections in saying that the tardy response was the result of a confluence of forces. Additionally, she continued, anytime organizations spoke out to support Heard, they received immense hatred and retaliation. Still, at least one of the signatories to this week's letter was disappointed by the lack of prompt action from feminist organizations and advocacy groups. Only a few of us spoke up, and when we did, we were abused and threatened, according to Taylor. I don't think I will ever forget the silence, just as I will never forget the women who stood up, the author says. I don't know if it was fear or if Amber wasn't the kind of woman they wanted to support.